mean, no one wants to hear from the Conservatives. They should shut up for over a year, in my personal opinion.
Obviously, we are very unpopular and we did very unwell, but how little Labour got as a percentage of the vote. I mean, 33% is... It's embarrassing. It's almost embarrassing as what happened to us.
People say, oh, I woke up and I haven't got any money in my account, forgetting the fact that they went and spent it all and they were silly with their money. They'll blame it on the government.
The corpse is still twitching, so it's probably a bit too early to do the post-mortem anyway, but, you know.
And I am confident in saying that with a fair amount of mistakes and a couple of quite bad mishaps, we've done incredibly well. And a Labour government would have done way, way worse.
So there are some Conservatives left, because here we are, 5 days on. And what does it say behind me? It says popcorn. And I'm not sure we're either popular, and I don't think we were very conservative. So it's slightly tricky.
How did you react to the exit poll on Thursday night?
It's funny, actually. I think a lot of us were relieved, which is strange, isn't it? How losing 240, 250 seats, you're actually relieved. But what it meant is that we can still be the opposition. We can still be an opposition. Anything lower, I think, than 100, I think it's you're almost talking game over. Mm-hmm. But I think we just about held on. But yeah, I would say it's relief, which is terrible when you think about it, isn't it?
Which MPs are you especially sad to see the back of?
Well, of course, one of my political heroes, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Oh, Penny Mordaunt, of course. I mean, she was just absolutely brilliant, in many ways for causes like the Royal Navy still being a Royal Naval Reserve. I really respect her. Many MPs who are still, in their reserve careers.
Personally, I was quite sad to see Liz lose her seat.
Really?
I was, yeah. I did vote for Liz back previously. I think, that was unfortunate, but if you look at the vote split, with the reform running in all of these seats, that is, how Labour has won lots of seats across the country. And I have Labour friends across the country as well that, have got in now because of the reform vote. I think it was probably inevitable, and I think that she was going to come under a lot of public scrutiny after what happened when she was Prime Minister. But on a personal note, I'm sad to lose her, because I think some of the values that she had when it came to the role of the state and potential reform of the tax system are the right things if poorly implemented at the time.
I think what's really interesting was just, obviously we are very unpopular and we did very unwell, but how little Labour got as a percentage of the vote. I mean, 33% is, it's embarrassing. It's almost embarrassing as what happened to us, almost,
I'm glad you've got that element of self-awareness.
Oh yeah, trust me, I'm very aware. Yeah, don't worry, I'm very aware of that. Yeah.
Why did the Conservatives lose the election, in your opinion?
I think for two reasons. David Cameron's centralisation. They fell into the trap that all elites do, that they are necessarily morally superior and correct, so they distance themselves from ordinary people. I don't just mean wealthy middle classes. A lot of working class people were members of conservative clubs and associations. And I think that they succumbed to that. They failed to deliver on promises. I mean, obviously, if you're going to make a promise election after election and fail to deliver it, of course you deserve contempt. Well, there's a whole litany of reasons why. And the corpse is still twitching, so it's probably a bit too early to do the post-mortem anyway. But,
Well, Daniel, why did the Conservatives lose the election?
I think that it was a lot of different elements building in. I think the fact that we were on our fourth term fighting for the fifth, and that is something that is rarely, if ever, seen, plays into it. That was talked about today, the fact that the smallest little details in people's life that realistically can't be blamed on the government still do. When someone's been incumbent for that long, people just throw everything at them.
What are those things that can't be blamed on the government, do you think?
Small little things that boil down to local councils and devolved powers.
That have been
potholes in the roads, things like that.
Since austerity.
Yes, I suppose you could say that. Lots of different things. If people say, oh, I woke up and I haven't got any money in my account, forgetting the fact that they went and spent it all and they were silly with their money, they'll blame it on the government. There's all sorts of different things that, isn't really the fault of the people in Westminster, but when someone's been in power for that long, it's them who get bear the brunt of it.
There's a lot of talks about the Quango. I'm not sure I heard someone say the blob, but they meant the blob, didn't they?
Yeah.
How much of a danger is that, or how much of a threat is that to conservatism, would you say?
It's a big threat to conservatism, and when we get back into power, which we will eventually, we've got to understand that we've got to tackle it. And if we can't tackle that, we'll achieve nothing, because the blob stopped too much, and it stopped us doing the things that we wanted to. If Rwanda had been a success, we might have been in a different position. There wouldn't be a space for reform to come into the political environment.
Is there not a danger of then alienating more conservative voters who are more liberal in immigration? There wasn't a great love for the Rwanda policy, and I also wouldn't really have done very much to tackle legal migration.
There was no love because it didn't work, because you were spending millions and millions of pounds on something that didn't work. Now, if they'd been spending millions of pounds on something that worked,
cruel and unusual.
Well, I don't know about cruel and unusual.
It's very cruel.
But it was certainly different, and because actually, people would have gone and been processed abroad, and there's nothing unusual about that. It's happened in other countries around the world, and the consequence of that is then becomes a deterrent. So in itself, the Rwanda policy wasn't necessarily something that was, I should say, cruel or whatever.
But also reform. God bless them. They're a bit of a joke.
Think so?
I don't think so. I know so. I mean, some of them are lovely, but I mean, I would say that. I mean, structurally, I'm an association chairman, and they don't have anything in regards to sort of structure. I mean, they've got as much structure as my dining room table. I mean, it's like good luck.
There is a genuine debate to be had, and I was quite impressed that they were having it in that room. I mean, I came along just to see who was here and that kind of thing, and whether anybody would come to something like this at all. But I thought it was very well attended, and I thought the intellectual level far higher than I was expecting.
What were you expecting?
The usual sort of banging on ideological drums, using free trade, like that sort of thing. But it wasn't like that at all. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
It seemed quite cathartic to me on the outside looking in.
Well, not for me. I
No.
mean, no. It's not cathartic. I still think they're going to make an awful lot of mistakes that will rush the leadership election. I mean, no one wants to hear from the Conservatives. They should shut up for over a year, in my personal opinion. No one's interested. No one wants to hear from them. They've got to sort a lot of things out, and they should re-emerge in a year or two's time if they've got a consistent philosophy of some kind.
So, I would say just a few clear principles. The Conservative Party is a brand, and we are about low taxes, property ownership, low migration. These are quite simple things. Actually, I would think have more popular consensus in the country, and we pretty much failed on all of those. If I wanted to vote for a high tax, high migration, low house building party, I have hundreds, loads to choose from. I've got more than a bag of M&Ms. But the Tory party should be about trying to get young people like me trying to own a home. We need to build more homes. We need to encourage property ownership, like Margaret Thatcher did. We need to encourage the economy to grow through low taxation and regulatory changes. And we need to be honest about migration. I mean, when I was growing up, migration was below 100,000. Last year it was 720,000. Now, you just need to do the maths here to understand that if you're building 220,000 homes a year and you're having 720,000 people come in, plus population growth, I mean, there's no wonder young people are all very angry and turning to, other parties than the Conservatives. Frankly, the Conservative Party has done as much good for young people as the chocolate teapot.
Why did the Conservatives lose the last election?
It just simply wasn't conservative enough. I said that in an answer to a question. These were not sort of low tax, low regulation type of Conservatives. They're quite happy to have the OBR dictate tax and spend policies. They have the Climate Change Committee to run green policies. They're quite happy for civil servants to run amok. We need to get back under political control in this country, and things will start to improve.
The MPs, or former MPs I suppose, associated with this movement, Liz Truss, Jacob Rees-Mogg, they all lost their seats.
They did.
Do you think that was a rejection of movements like this on a wider level?
No, I just think it was a rejection of the Conservative Party in general. And let's be honest, the campaign for the Conservative Party during this general election was pretty appalling. I mean, we have Rishi, giving his announcements in the pouring rain in Downing Street. I think the second day he visited Northern Ireland and went to the Titanic Quarter, which was an omen if there was nothing else. But the whole thing to do with the D-Day commemorations, just loads and loads of unforced errors, just gaffes. Not a particularly good professional campaign, and that certainly didn't help.
How do you win the next election?
Hard work, hard graft, getting back down to the grassroots of the party, really connecting with our volunteers and local associations, the devolved parts of the party in different areas of the country. And I think a massive element of it, which this today has helped with a lot, and there's many different things that are doing this good work, drag the young people in. Get the young people to realise that if you want to grow up and have strong finances, if you want to have good education, if you want to have a happy life with a happy family and a strong and healthy future in a good country where everything is stable, or as stable as can be, it's the Conservatives that you need to vote for.
Would they not just look at the last 14 years of government and see that that's all rubbish?
I would argue against it. I think that being the Prime Minister or being the governing party in any country in any time period is one of the few jobs I would say no man or woman could ever fulfill properly. It's an impossible job, and I am confident in saying that with a fair amount of mistakes and a couple of quite bad mishaps, we've done incredibly well, and a Labour government would have done way worse. Not that that's really a justification.